Chicagoland, hey, let's start the conversation. Upset, complaint, opinion, call me. Oh, no, that didn't just happen. Garrard McClendon Live starts now. Yes, Garrard McClendon Live starts right now. You know, a 16-year-old Finger High School student, Derrion Albert, was beaten to death by an angry mob. Some family members believe that this was an act of gang recruitment resistance, while others think that the mob simply escalated into an uncontrollable lynching at 111th and Wallace. Squad cars, police cameras, and broad daylight don't seem to curtail violence when unruly scores of the violent and thirsty are hell-bent on killing an innocent person. Will the perpetrators be caught? Will people start speaking up? Is this modern day savagery or another day around the way? Call me at 877-358-CL-TV. Joining us now from the Tribune Tower is the CEO of Chicago High Achievers, Jinny English. How are you this evening?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing pretty well, just trying to get through this situation. A sad story. Miss English, you specialize in such areas as depression, anxiety, power and control. You know, the young man was beaten to death, seemed to be a bystander who was caught in the middle of all of this. Miss Piper, a worker at the community center, said, quote, "Word is he was not recognized by the group. He just ended up being at the wrong place," end quote. What could cause such anger for a mob to beat up one person, Miss English?
Well, it depends on the circumstance, of course, as you know, and this is obviously an unfortunate circumstance. But one must consider the mob mentality effect, which is if there is information that's shared rather quickly throughout a group, at a particular time in a particular situation, people may and often do abandon their own position, their own rationale, their own reasoning, and quickly absorb in the information that they're getting at that time. So the more that they're flooded with this new information that may hint at something being a threat that needs to be destroyed, they tend to follow that the lead of whatever is going on or whomever. And if there's a large group, that usually tends to result in something, unfortunately, like this.
Now, Miss English, I'm so glad that you opened up with that because I've been trying to figure this out for years. What is it? Is it anxiety? Is it power and control? What is it that makes people not do something if it's one-on-one or one-on-two, but they're more apt to do it if there's an entire group doing it?
Well, there's usually some type of fear. So, of course, there's some anxiety there, there's some fear of losing power or control, but overall, there's usually some type of fear of losing something. So it really depends on what the situation is, and if it had something to do with a gang, then now you're looking at a completely different situation. But generally speaking, there is some type of fear that's spread throughout the group that's a legitimate fear shared by most of the people in that group.
Miss English, here's another item that I've been grappling with for a while. I've gotten in conversations with friends of mine about this. We get in these huge arguments. Are there various levels of consciousness in human beings when it comes to valuing human life?
Well, there are, if you will, if you're talking more conscious or unconscious, we all have biases and prejudices, of course, that are innate to our experiences. However, you know, those types of things usually come out during different moments where different levels of threat are identified for each individual or each group. So it really depends, but at some point, if it's more reactive and it's more impulsive, then yes, there are some things that you may tend to do that you might not otherwise do had you had more time to think about it and had the situation been a little less intense.
Okay, an act like this, the young man, Derrion Albert, was attacked. You know, he was to be home by approximately 3:15, 3:30. This happened approximately 3 o'clock. Is this mob incident something that's psychological? Is it sociological, or do you think it's biological?
Well, it's usually psychological. And of course, there's this nature versus nurture debate that goes back and forth. However, you know, human beings throughout time have experienced this mob effect. So it's a little bit of both, I would presume, for most people, and that something in their environment is threatening them as an individual, as a human being. So there are certain things that, for self-preservation needs that people will do in response to that, either instinctively or even if they have time to think through it. So it depends.
Jinny English, crack cocaine trade in the late 80s, early 90s takes the blame for more babies with drug dependency and an increase in territorial warfare. Miss English, you're the CEO of High Achievers. Is there any way to reverse this cycle of drug dependency and violence?
Well, it really starts in small doses. You know, one of the things that I think is the most frustrating to people who are trying to make a difference, who are trying to change circumstances that are really unfortunate, such as this one, especially when there's a huge trend, you know, is to stop the cycle of violence, to stop the cycle of pathology. And those things take time because you have to consider the fact that the people who are actually engaging in these types of behaviors grew up in a certain way. So that takes time to reconnect with them in a different way, to re-engage them, to have some different experiences for them over time. So those things happen over time, and unfortunately that's something that most people find to be frustrating because the problem is happening right now.
Jinny English, I'm going to take you through the break. CEO of Chicago's High Achievers. Stay with us. Derrion Albert beaten to death by an angry mob. Was this a savage act of territory recruitment or a mob with the momentum of murder and mayhem? Call me, 877-358-CLTV. Garrard McClendon live, back in 2 minutes. Yes, sir.
It seems like mobs of kids were coming from every direction on 111th Alley, from off the lot. Not shortly after that.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. That's fine. That's fine. It's up to you. We'll see where the momentum goes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Okay.
It seems like mobs of kids were coming from every direction on 111th, from the alley, from off the lot. Not shortly after that, we saw where a young man, Derrion Albert, was hit over the head with one of the sticks that was being carried by one of the students there. And then he was hit a second time by another student, and then kicked and beaten by some other students. Immediately after we saw that it was clear to bring him to safety, myself and two students and a man who was in a car, an unknown individual, helped move him.
Welcome back to Garrard McClendon Live. Ms. Piper said, quote, he was caught in it and ended up being at the wrong place, end quote. Milton Massey, executive director of the Agape Community Center, said, quote, it was a mob action, basically a bunch of kids coming from the east and west sides of the street, end quote. Derrion Albert was beaten to death, and here we are again with another life taken. Bloodshed in the streets of Chicago. You better come forward now, all of the perpetrators, because we got you on tape. Joining me from Tribune Tower, I've got Jinny English, the CEO of Chicago's High Achievers. Jinny, thanks for staying through the break. My callers are going to be asking some questions shortly at 877-358-CLTV. Jinny, is there any way we can prevent these types of events from happening? This was broad daylight, cameras were running, and people got out of hand.
Well, there are several things that can be done. It really depends on the situation, of course, as always. But a lot of what you want to start teaching individuals, especially children or young adults who may be in high school at this age, is how to regulate, how to really be mindful of the emotions that they're experiencing. Because a lot of times, and you and I both know, that as teenagers you have so many emotions and feelings going on, and there's a lot of peer pressure that you may abandon more easily that rational thought. But learning how to be mindful, how to be thoughtful, and how to regulate your emotions or control them and be aware of what's going on with you and how come. Those are really important basic functions that every human being would benefit from learning, not simply because of the mob activity or the mob effect, if you will, but because it's really good practice to be able to think for oneself before you actually react to things. The more responsive you can be, the better informed and the better able you are to make choices. The more reactive you are, the less likely you are to make choices, and the more impulsive you're likely to be.
Think for yourself, knowledge of self. Let me go to phones right now, Miss English. I'm going to go to Colleen. Colleen, thanks for calling GML. What's your comment?
Hi, Gerard.
Hi.
Thank you so much for what you're doing for our community. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Gerard, I teach psychology, and I just want to talk about learned behavior. Number one, classical conditioning. Stimulus response. The stimulus is you disrespect me. My response is I kick your butt. Operant conditioning, consequential learning, positive reinforcement. These guys get kudos from all their buddies for kicking people who disrespect them. Negative reinforcement. If I want to remove the aversive stimulus of you being disrespectful to me, thereby increases the likelihood that I make you respect me. Social learning theory, observational learning. If I learn from my caregivers that when people disrespect me, that I get even with them, then that's what occurs.
So Colleen, where do we go with this? I mean, yes, you're giving us excellent textbook definitions, but since we know about this, what do we do to shape, inform, and change this so it benefits society and innocent children such as Derrion Albert don't get killed?
Very honestly, teach child development in high school as part of the curriculum. Teach people these basic core theories. When I teach these courses in high school, at the college level, even persons who are parents for years and have adult children are like, I never knew this. I never knew any of these things. I wish someone had told me these things before. So I think that as a community, what we could do is offer this as part of the high school curriculum. Anybody, for instance, freshman year, what have you, learn these core tenets, these core principles, and then we might be able to see some change.
Hey, Colleen, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. Jinny English, do you concur? I mean, she said a mouthful there.
I agree with Colleen 100%, and I'm so glad she called in and said that, because one of the things that we're looking to do is, in this particular new year for us, start doing more work with the school system, because one of the things that we know to be true is that you have a better chance of reaching an individual at this particular developmental level. If we can get to those kids even in grammar school, that's great, but if in high school they have the option, say an elective course that they can take in psychology, in human behavior, right? Now you have a setting that's ideal for them to learn how to understand themselves, how to understand their environments, how to be more responsive and understand what's going on, not just with them, but with other people, so they can make smarter choices. So I agree with her 100%, and I'm so glad she called and made that point.
I'm glad she called too. I'm going to have to go to break shortly, but we have to have the knowledge of this, and people have to have knowledge of self. And once we know that we may have an anger problem or an anxiety problem, we have to find an outlet that's positive so that we don't inflict this particular behavior on someone else. Jenny, hold tight. I'm going to take some more phone calls after break. Have we lost our minds? Where is the spirituality and sacred respect for human life? Derrion Albert beaten to death just trying to get home. His grandfather, Joseph Walker, said the respectful young man had never been in a fight. Savage act in the form of a sinful lynch mob? Call me, 877-358-CLTV. Garrard McClendon Live. Back in 2. Okay.
We're in trouble. I mean, our society is in trouble. I mean, our current neighborhood is in trouble.
Okay.
We're in trouble. I mean, our
Yeah, I'm fine. Is there anything that you need me to do different on my end, or is it good? Okay. Okay. Sure.
I got 2, Cleveland and Regina. Okay. Ooh, I'll try to get through them. Okay.
we're in trouble. I mean, our society. We're in trouble. I mean, our society is in trouble. I mean, our current neighborhood is in trouble.
Milton Massey, Executive Director of Agape Community Center, said it was a mob. Have we lost our minds and our respect and love for people? I am hurt by the death of Derrion Albert, and I refuse to see him as just another casualty. He could have been my brother, my son, or my nephew, and we should all think likewise. I've got Jinny with me right now from the Chicago High Achievers. Jinny English, thanks for being on Garrard McClendon Live. I'm going to take a few more phone calls here because it seems like my callers are right on the pulse, Miss English. I'm going to go to Cleveland first. Cleveland, thanks for calling GML. What's your comment?
Yes, I wanted to say that my name is Cleveland and like our show and everything, but it's a shame when people don't have respect for life. And I wonder, it come in a point when the parents is not involved. You know, I wonder why the parents not involved in the schools. You know, they was involved when they was in grammar school. Why not be involved in high school? Then you can watch, see what your kids doing.
Right.
But at the same time, they sit there and not really watch them. They be working. There's so much going on in society to the point where they really don't know what's going on with their kids.
Yes, hey, Cleveland, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. You know what, Miss English? It seems as if parents need to have classes on parenting. And we need curfew. Of course, this happened broad daylight, right after school. But where's the responsibility factor for the whole community?
Well, I mean, of course, you know, the saying "it takes a village to raise a child" is very true, and you know, this is not to say that all of the parents of the students who may have been involved in some way, shape, or form with yesterday's unfortunate incident were uncaring, because a lot of them are, and they're doing the best that they can with what they have. So, with that being said, being able to connect with parents and finding effective ways to do that, either through the school or through the community or through the churches, really being able to bring families together, whether they are single parent families or dual parent families or some type of extended family, to be able to connect with children.
Yes.
You know, that's really something that can be solved with some, you know, effort on everybody's part. And it doesn't require very much, but it does require some coordination, some organization, and some really skillful individuals who can effectively reach them in ways that are meaningful, not only to the parent, but to the child.
Yes, and you know what? The Cleveland, the caller said something interesting. Many times we pay attention to children from like K through 6th or K through 8th grade, but the minute they become just as tall as we are, the adult, we tend to tune out and lose the importance and the emphasis placed on that child that we did when they were much younger. Let me go to Regina. Regina, thanks for calling GML. What's your comment, Regina?
Hi, Gerard.
Hello.
This is Regina. I'm calling because, and I always call in on issues like this because it highly disturbs me. I'm thinking about the fact that my son held a mock workshop on Saturday in Maywood with juveniles, okay? At the end of the workshop, he asked them about their individuality. These kids have since contacted him. They have emailed him to let him know how much they appreciate the fact that he took the time out with them to discuss certain issues about music, life, and all of these things. So, Mrs. English, I am glad to see you there. I'm glad Colleen called in. My son will be getting in touch with you, Miss English, because he wants to be a part of this society that's going to come out and try to save these children. I think one thing we've done is forgotten how to teach these children about their history. They don't know who they are, and they don't know where they come from.
Yes.
And as long as we don't tell them and don't show them and don't teach them, then they're going to come out here like that and grow.
That's
hating,
right.
self-hate,
Regina.
trying to kill one another, don't understand how much and how value life is to them and their future. But I just want to say thank you, Miss English, for coming forward. We will be getting in touch with you. Please look forward to my call. We will get with you and do whatever we can to get into the community to help out as much as we can.
Yes, Regina.
Thank you, Gerard.
Regina, thanks for the call. We appreciate you. You know what Bob Marley said is best. You don't know your past. You don't know your future. Let me go to Herman next. Herman, talk to me on Garrard McClendon Live. What's up?
How you doing, Gerard?
Pretty good.
Yeah, my name is Herman. I live in Roseland, man, and, you know, it's a sad situation over here. Roseland is actually out of control. The police does not have control of Roseland anymore. Seeing the same thing, a mob formed, I think it was 5 days ago or 6 days ago, right on 110th and Michigan, and they jumped on the boy and almost beat him to death. Police. The police are riding up and down 111th Street, and they just seem to ignore these little boys coming from Finger High School.
Yeah.
The kid that wants to go to school and learn, and take him and beat him down for no reason at all. What I do, and what I would like to see happen is that more men and women.
There we go.
That's driving their cars, and they see something. This is what I do. I stop my vehicle and intervene.
You have to. You have to. Hey, Herman, I got to run, man. I got to run. Herman, thanks for the call. Jinny English, Chicago's high achievers. We got to wrap things up. Give me a closing word for today.
The closing word for today is hope, because without that, then we have nothing to even grow from. There's nothing for us to do if we don't believe that we can actually make a difference. It'll take some time, but we'll be able to do it.
Jinny English, thanks for being on Garrard McClendon Live tonight, Chicago's high achievers. Will you come back on the show? We appreciate
having
you.
me.
We appreciate you. No respect for life near Finger High School. Hit my blog in honor of Derrion Albert, www.cltv.com/GML. You can also hit me on Facebook and MySpace. Hit me on Twitter, or just give me a call after the show, 773-883-3450. Garrard McClendon Live, back in 2 minutes. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Jinny.
Oh, thank you for having me. Not a problem.
Yeah, it'll be on again tonight, and then it'll be on all weekend as well.
All right, no problem.
Thank you so much. I think Jerry might have to say some words to you. Thanks.
We'll see. Is that it?
Yeah,
oh, okay. Okay.
All right, you're all disconnected.
I came up?
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks again.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. It's not my phone. Here at Garrard McClendon Live, we give you the First Amendment. You can hit my blog at cltv.com/GML, or you can call me on the Garrard McClendon Live V line after the show, 773-883-3450. Let me read a few comments from Facebook. Shanice says, I hope they catch all of them and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. Stephanie says, this is happening in broad daylight. This is astounding, Garrard. Alicia says, Lord have mercy. People in this world, there's nothing they won't do. You know, we're mourning the death of Derrion Albert. Condolences to his family. Let's hope that all perpetrators can be brought to justice based on the evidence of testimony, referrals, and the video recordings. I know it's difficult tonight, but I'm asking all of you to try to stay positive. You know, the death of Derrion Albert is a tragic one, but we have to remain positive. Hey, stay positive. I need you to keep your head up, always be encouraged, and send your prayers and condolences to the family of Derrion Albert. Have a good night.